Good Monday morning. What a shocking whooping the Giants took last night. Yeah, we know that the Cowboys are a good team, and they've beaten the Giants up a lot recently, and they always seem to beat them in the beginning of these seasons. And yes, we know the history, but this was a Giants team that went to the playoffs, went to the divisional round last year, that was coming back in year two of Brian Daboll and yada, 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 all the stuff we said. And they got their asses handed to them by their division rival in their building so bad that all the Giants fans left. It's pouring rain. The Cowboys fans are chanting, "Let's go Cowboys." Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth are talking about how they're going to have to empty out all the stories that they had in this game and laughing about it. A pure embarrassment. There were some bad ones yesterday. The Steelers come to mind, but at least they lost to the 49ers, who could be going to the Super Bowl. And that Steelers team, did not go to the playoffs last year like the Giants did. The worst performance of the weekend came from the New York Giants, and the Dallas Cowboys just came in here, lit MetLife on fire, and left laughing. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, G. I'm doing all right, and I think you're right. I think you encapsulated it just perfectly. I mean, it was an ass-kicking of epic proportions, and the numbers are staggering, especially when you put them in context with history. And you put them in context with history when it comes to Dak Prescott, who did not throw a touchdown pass yesterday, and they still won 40-0. But the way the defense of the Dallas Cowboys just absolutely steamrolled the offensive line of the Giants was that to me is frightening. That is frightening, and that is something that's got to be fixed. It's week one. I don't want to overreact, but what today you should be is you should be pissed at that performance. Daniel Jones was running for his life. The mistake that he made is that one time where he's running out of bounds, and it was the second interception, and he threw it back against the grain, and he got hit out of bounds by Micah Parsons. Those are the plays that he was making when he was younger. Those are the plays that Brian Daboll got him out of last year. So that's the one play that I would say, Daniel, you got to be smart in that. Just eat the ball. The game is, at that point, is kind of, going against you. You can feel the momentum and the defense of the Cowboys just smothering the offense. But, 40-0, and your quarterback running for his life, turnovers, block kicks, interception returns. I mean, it had everything from a negative perspective for the Giants that 40-0 tells you. I mean, this was an eye-opener. And Brian Daboll's not a guy who's going to be, walking on eggshells around his players not to hurt their feelings. I'm sure that after this game last night, he was extremely loud. I'm sure he was in the face of the players and is going to make this week's practice a completely unpleasant thing for this team, because this team needs to be awake. They better get ready to go next week and kind of flush this one down the toilet. And I don't want to overreact over 1 week.
Yeah, but, they gave us a real opportunity, too. Let's put it that way. I don't either, but this was not the Giants losing 23-10 and looking like crap. This was a 40-0 straight blowout where everything went wrong. So I'm with you. I'm not going to jump off the Giants. I said that they were going to go to the playoffs, get a wild card again. I'm not going to jump off of them all of a sudden. And quite frankly, they go right down the field on the first drive, and they're looking pretty competent. And then all of a sudden, here's a penalty, here's a sack, and then the missed field goal. And by the way, that stare that Brian Daboll gave Thomas McGahee, the special teams coordinator, in the preseason, I can't imagine the stares he was giving him and the stuff he was saying to him after this game, after a blocked field goal and missed field goals and just poor play all around from the special teams.
Think about this. Think about the plays that Daniel Jones had to make on that first series to get the Giants where they were. Where they drop back passes and throws down the field.
Yeah, it's a run.
No,
around,
it was breakdown after breakdown after breakdown, and he had to take off and run. And then all of a sudden now, and I know this from personal experience, believe me, you realize that this defensive line, you can't control them. You can't stop them, that they are going to keep coming, and they're going to be coming from all different angles. So now that affects you as a human being and a quarterback. You're not going to stand in there. You're just not. And you're going to be breaking the pocket, and I'm sure they're going to be looking at the tape today, and they're going to see places where Daniel probably could have stayed in the pocket if he wasn't under siege so early and didn't have so much success, with the breakdown plays and running with the ball. He's athletic and he's going to do that from time to time, but you can't live that way in the NFL. You just can't. And, you got to be able to trust your receivers. You got to be able to trust your offensive linemen. And that was kind of out the window literally 5 minutes into the offensive game for the Giants. Even though they moved the ball, it was how they moved the ball and what they did as they were moving the ball. I'm just telling you, Evan Neal was on roller skates. Andrew Thomas, I don't know what he was doing. The interior of that offensive line could not handle a twist or a stunt to save their life. And that's what you're going to be hearing about. This is supposed to be fixed. You had a bad snap that led to a blocked field goal. Mm-hmm. You had all sorts of crap going on in this game. And if you're a Giant fan, you should be livid, because it didn't look, when you lose like that, it doesn't look like your team is giving effort. Now, they are giving effort, believe me.
Well,
it's just the other team was so overwhelming and so smothering that after a while, you just physically and mentally get beat down. And I would say at halftime, I turned it off at halftime. I could not watch the second half. And then I came in on NFL Plus today and watched the second half in about 15 minutes, which is unbelievable.
No, it really is. You get every single play in about 36 minutes on that NFL Plus app. But I felt like when you want to talk about effort, I'm not saying that the Giants quit, but there was just a different energy when they got down. There wasn't a fight of let's try to make something positive happen.
It's hard. Man.
It was just like hell. We just can this game be over already? Can we just get out to Arizona and start our week 2 prep because this is horrendous. And I think the most shocking thing to me, and that's why I said shocking, it's not shocking that the Giants lost to the Cowboys because we've seen that a ton recently, is I didn't think that a Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale coach team and bringing back both coordinators too, and Kafka and Martindale and Brian Daboll being there, I didn't think that they were capable of something like this. I'm not saying that they were going to win every game. I just didn't think they'd be shut out at home in a blowout because every single game that we saw last year, they were in the game. They were there. They found a way. If they fell behind in the fourth quarter, they battled back. They'd be these key third downs that they would convert or they would get off the field. Every game felt like they had an opportunity to win it. And in a week 1 in the year when we come back and expect them to be better than last year, this happens?
What's interesting is that Dak Prescott has now beat the Giants 11 straight times. Do you know the last quarterback to beat the Giants 11 straight times for the Cowboys?
For the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Troy Aikman? Roger Staubach?
Roger Staubach.
Wow, Jesus.
It is. The numbers are just about as ugly. And you know what? So the bloom is off the rose. The honeymoon is over, and this is where reality starts to set in. And now I would say that Giant fans are going to be looking for this team to bounce back in a big way against a team who played hard yesterday against Washington, by the way. Mm-hmm. And their defensive line got all over Sam Howell yesterday. So it's not like any of these games are easy. It's just that, the quarterback situation for the Cardinals is just atrocious. But then again, if the Giant quarterback could be running for his life, his year is going to be atrocious. But they opened up against one of the best teams in the league. And this is a team that has been building. They have been good with Dak Prescott. They have been good with Cooper Rush. They just haven't been able to get over the hump for whatever reason when they get to the playoffs. And I think that was about allowed a statement win in the NFL yesterday as anybody else. Maybe the 49ers at Pittsburgh, that was a pretty resounding win. What the Rams did to Seattle in Seattle, that was a pretty resounding win. Everywhere else, I think 9 out of the 14 games that were played, or 15 games that were played, if you count Thursday night, I think 9 of those 15 games, the road team won.
It's the NFL, man.
That is the NFL.
It's the parody of the NFL.
And it's defense.
Yeah,
is what it is.
And going into this year, all the teams in the AFC we talk about, and then basically in the NFC, it's you got the Eagles and you got the 49ers, and who is going to be that team or two that comes out and says, we're going to be here. A lot of people are talking about the Lions. The Cowboys always have people talking about them, and the Cowboys basically told everybody in week 1 early on to keep an eye on them to be in that same conversation with the Eagles and 49ers. But like we said, we could be looking back in 3 or 4 weeks from now, and the Giants have gotten it together, and you're waiting for that next matchup much later in the season between these two teams, and you feel better about it. But, I mean, as far as a excitement level from this new regime that got off to such an amazing start last year, Coach of the Year, Brian Daboll, who I love and I don't believe is going to let this season slip through his fingers like year 2 Joe Judge did. There's no way in hell that's going to happen because he is not that guy. He's a better coach than that. But this was he's got to be sitting around last night and this morning when he gets in and looking at this tape and just being like, how did this even happen? How? I mean, they were one of the most well-coached teams last year. And then in week 1, they look like they never played the game before.
Well, it happened because the Dallas Cowboy defensive line made it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the game was won for the Cowboys. You could talk about, special teams and all this other stuff, but if you can't block them, and Micah Parsons is, he's a very talkative player, publicly.
Yeah.
He's a very, same thing with Diggs. He's the same type of player.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to tell you. They think that they're the best defense in football. It's kind of like what the Jets have been saying now throughout training camp.
Yeah.
And they proved it. They absolutely proved it. It was an ass kicking.
Yeah.
It was an ass kicking 101 that now it's about how the Giants respond to this, how the players respond to it, how the players who got their ass kicked yesterday respond to it. This is not going to be any fun going to work today watching this tape. Now, I don't know if he'll show the tape. He sometimes, games like this, you throw the tape out and you try to manipulate the guys psychologically to start thinking about their next opponent as opposed to worrying about what just happened. But I don't know. I think you got to show the tape, and I think you got to really start pointing out people that are not living up to their contracts, not living up to their draft status. And, the Giant defense wasn't much better.
No, and that's going to be a concern going on. I mean, I thought that the Giants' offensive line issues were fixed to a certain degree. I was actually excited about them having a good offensive line, so we wouldn't be hearing Al scream about it. But last night they were really bad. And and Andrew Thomas is supposed to be the best left tackle in football, one of the 2-3 best left tackles in football, and he got steamrolled. And by the way, Micah Parsons, after that one sack last night, where he basically got down on all fours and started galloping.
Yes.
I was like, he might be the most athletic man I've ever seen in my life.
I'm telling you, there's another guy, his name's Myles Garrett.
Yeah, him too.
Nick Bosa.
Those guys are good.
I mean, all those teams that won yesterday, their defensive ends showed up and lived up to who
these
they
guys are
are
getting
and
his
their
money.
reputation.
Yeah.
This is another problem for the Giants. Kayvon Thibodeau may not be what he thinks he is and what the Giants thought he was when they drafted him.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't get enough out of him last year. He got better as the year went on. He basically was not even talked about in the first half of the season. But, yeah, he is not. I mean, Micah Parsons made an impact right away. You knew immediately when he put that uniform on and started playing, in his rookie season, how great he was. And he's just gotten better since then. You really haven't gotten that from Kayvon Thibodeau.
No sacks from the Giants last night.
Yeah.
No sacks.
I mean, well, basically, when you're down 1,000 to nothing,
but
they're not going to be throwing the ball a ton.
You want to see how you want your defensive line to play? Just watch how the Dallas Cowboys played last night. Watch how the 49ers played yesterday. They were all over Kenny Pickett, just like the Cowboys were all over Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty bad pick by me. I ended up picking the Steelers. I even bet the Steelers money line. That I felt like a real donkey after that one. I just thought, I was like, Brock Purdy hasn't played. He's coming off the injury. Bosa just got there. The Steelers' defense is really good. Apparently, they're not really good. And Patrick Peterson has been just getting contract after contract just based on his name because that guy is just completely washed up. That was a pathetic performance by them all the way around, too. But, to me, it's still the Giants were still the most embarrassing out of anybody. It's as bad as that Steelers situation was, and as bad as the Vikings losing to a bad team and the Buccaneers at home was. There's a couple really bad ones. The Bengals, I understand that they're on the road, but losing in that fashion to the Browns was not something that a lot of people
Joe Burrow is 1-5 versus the Browns.
That's crazy.
You know why? Because I'm telling you, because their offensive line does not match up with the defensive line of the Browns, and like Micah Parsons last night, Myles Garrett was in the backfield the entire game. Now, I know also in the Northeast and the Midwest, the weather really wasn't conducive for quarterbacks to have great games. Jalen Hurts didn't have a great game. Daniel Jones certainly didn't have a great game. I think it was kind of a pedestrian game for Dak Prescott. It wasn't a great game for Kenny Pickett, although Brock Purdy played well. And Brandon Ayuk played well. Didn't seem like they had any problems.
No, but
Mac Jones attempted 54 passes and completed over 30 of them and played reasonably well. And looks like a much improved offense for New England under Bill O'Brien. But I have to tell you, if the Dolphins are on my schedule, get ready for a track meet. That team is so fast, especially on that L.A. field and the beautiful weather and everything else. You could see it, and you could just see how Tua outplayed Justin Herbert. And remember when Tua was drafted? He was drafted the same year that Joe Burrow was drafted, and Herbert was in that draft.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dolphins had a choice. At number 5, do we take Tua or do we take Justin Herbert?
Yeah, and up until recently, up until yesterday, that answer was Herbert, and then here comes Tua outplaying him in this game and getting a win.
And by the way, Tua's 2-1 against Justin Herbert.
Yeah. Tua!
That kid's just got to stay healthy. That's all.
Yeah, what was the more embarrassing thing from Sunday? Was it the Giants losing 40-0 at home to the Cowboys on national TV, or was it you going 0-5 in your picks week 1?
0-5.
Sorry, it doesn't happen a lot.
It's all right.
I had such a bad year last year. Before I go into last place, I got to get my shot in.
So I feel like the Giants this morning.
Yeah, I understand. And by the way, not to take a serious note here, but you said there was this earthquake in Morocco.
Yeah, very serious.
And I texted Youssef, and I didn't hear back from him. I hope his family's okay.
Yeah.
But he did not have he had a 1-4 week, but obviously he's thinking about other things. But, that was sad to see that. So hopefully we see him here today, and he got word that his family and all his friends back in Morocco are okay. All right, Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. Quick break. Jerry Recco joins us the morning after the Cowboy beatdown of the Giants and the morning before we see Aaron Rodgers play a real football game for the Jets.